huge difference in my life and in my career. So the research that I did when I was doing my doctoral program was on how to position lives and careers in convulsive environments. And I will share that with Angie, and she can pass that along to y'all. It's about a 10-page summary of my research. It was over about a 4-year period. But I interviewed people that had lost positions by the 2008 economic crash. And I examined whether they were, and this is about 5 years after 2008. So I examined whether they were able to successfully re-engage with their careers, the economy, those type of things, and or whether they weren't. And there were some really uplifting stories, but there were some really kind of tough stories in there too. But I cannot tell you the number of times that these weak tie relationships were the ones that really made the difference. I can't tell you the number of times that somebody told me, I don't know why this person took such an interest in me and my career. We hadn't been that close. We hadn't had the kind of relationship. There are other people that I would have thought would have made a much bigger difference in my job search that kind of blended into the landscape. But this person just came out of nowhere and was just like my hero through this process. And so building these relational networks and getting these strong ties are important, right? Your family, best friends, all that stuff's vitally important too. But even these weak tie relationships, you never know when they might just really come up and make such a huge difference, pay off for you. So anyway, but love teaching undergrad, love teaching grad. I've done a lot of work with, matter of fact, most of my teaching has been in the adult mid-career sector, people that are kind of mid-career, and I feel really comfortable in that. So I'm really enjoying this. I will tell you that also everybody's getting to be a lot better at online instruction this last 6-9 months, and we're learning more as we speak. So I think we're all taking a pretty big leap up, and it's something that academicians and administrators have wanted to see for quite some time, but necessity is definitely the mother of invention. So we're all taking a big jump right now, and it's been a lot of fun. So Angie, anything else you can think of that you want me to touch on?
Yes, and actually, I did provide Larry's LinkedIn to all of you. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, check it out. He spent some time over the summer really helping me up my game with my LinkedIn profile as well. And I'm sure he'll offer that same service to any of you guys. The way that he has his formatted is it's very good. I mean, it basically really promotes his product, promotes his brand, and he's actually developed a series about how do you promote your brand, which we'll share with you guys as well. Larry, if you could kind of touch on what would be a good takeaway for the students to have, like what should they focus on during their time in the MBA as a good takeaway for actually moving from theory-based, like MBA studying, into practice as far as being in an actual business?
Yeah, you know, I think it's important in undergrad and in graduate level to learn theory and to learn facts and to even memorize some facts. When you're in a conference room and you got 20 people sitting around a table and they're talking about theory, or they're talking about finance, or they're talking about accounting, if they're talking about net present value, for example, or depreciation or things like that, you've got to have the light bulb on. You've got to be able to understand what that is. That being said, I think that what academics and what academia is still struggling with a little bit right now is this balance between knowing things and memorizing things and actually just people learning how to be more adaptable, more pliable. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that should be a takeaway for you as you go through this program. In my classes, one of the things that I really try to get you to do, like I say, learn some of the terminology, learn some of the things that you need to do, but through a series of papers and things like that, is trying to really get you to think about what's in the textbooks, what you're learning factually, and how it plugs into current circumstances. And I know we're going through a lot of challenges right now. There's no doubt about that. It's a little tenuous. It's a little scary. But honestly, this probably, you couldn't find a better time to do an MBA than right now, honestly, in my opinion. Let me give you an example. When I did a Harvard program, it was called the Owner President Management Program. And it was a 3-year program. I did 3-week per year residencies at Harvard Business School. So you lived there, you're immersed. You had about 160 students all from all over the globe. I mean, 59% were from outside the US and Canada. So a really global experience. And our first year when we were there of the 3 years was before 2008. And the last 2 years were the 2 years after 2008, after that crash. And it was absolutely an incredible time to go through all of that. Harvard Business School had their fingerprints all over that mess, and they knew it. And they found religion for about a day and a half. And so they had special sessions, and they had world-renowned economists and just people coming in trying to help us, because we were all business people. We were all business executives. We had our own businesses. And they tried to have people come in there and help us figure out how to manage through this, how to position through it. They actually called our class the Survivors Club. I think out of 160 people, we lost less than 5 people out of that cohort, because everybody we just banded together and we all got through it. And that's the type of opportunities that present themselves in situations like this. There's just so much uncertainty. There's going to be so many things that are going to be different. And it's just, in some ways, you just couldn't find a better time to really learn business, because it all just comes together. And you really have no choice but to manage on multiple levels, because you're just seeing the world, or you should see the world, in 3D. And one of the things that with my business, the last 3 to 5 years we had our business, it was really incredibly tough times. We'd had this huge ride up for about 5 or 6 years, about 6 years. And then it was like the floor fell out, and it was like the Tower of Terror. And for about the next 3 or 4 years, it was just this huge drop, very much like businesses are going through right now. And so we had to manage through all that. And I will tell you, I think our company did the best management we've ever done to survive that and be able to get our company positioned for a sale. And we had a successful sale. But to be able to do that, we had to do a lot of amazing management, a lot of amazing things. I was really proud of our people and our teams. But one of the things we had to do, and I would ask you all to think in these terms as we go through this process. I told everybody what we went through, it was like playing 3 chess games at one time. And you had to play them all to win, because you didn't know which board counted. You didn't know which board was the real one. And so that's what we had to do. We had to play 3 different scenarios at one time. One was we were going to survive and get through the thing. One was a little more questionable. Maybe we were going to survive, but we're going to have to be a radically different form of ourselves. And the other one was we had to find the best exit ramp to get off on. And as time went on, we figured out we needed to take the 3rd avenue, right? We needed to find the best exit ramp, but we didn't choose that until we kind of exhausted our other options, because we wanted to stay in the game if we could, but we knew that was a distinct possibility. So we had to play a lot of the different things. One of the things you're going to see with businesses, not just now, but even going forward, is, and this always should have been a part of strategic management, but it wasn't, because businesses had the luxury of not doing this. Now you're going to see businesses really paying a lot more attention to contingency management, to where you're going to have to almost have 2 or 3 strategic plans based on potential scenarios. And again, we probably always should have been doing that, but we kind of had the luxury of not having to. But I think now you're going to see businesses have to take that pathway and really work multiple levels and plan for different possible contingencies. And, you know, the other thing I would just stress with everybody too, is as you go through this experience, is learn. One of the things I got out of Harvard Business School when I was small potatoes compared to a lot of these people. They were just incredible folks, incredible business people. A lot of them much larger than us. But one of the things I figured out about those folks is they looked at businesses differently than me and our family traditionally did. They looked at businesses as a tool. They looked at business as something that was a function to gain other things, but they didn't have their personality and their image and all of their self-worth wrapped up in any particular business. And I'm glad I learned that through that experience, because when we went through our last 3 to 5 years, I was able to kind of almost detach a little bit and not have my whole heart, soul, and image wrapped up into it, which is very difficult when it's a family business and your name is on it. But I was able to kind of accomplish that as much as is possible. And so I think one of the lessons that we're having right now is redefining what success and failure is. There are so many folks out there. There's so many businesses. There's so many individuals that did all the right things. They did it right. They saved, they did this, they did that. They managed their businesses right. And then something like this comes along and boom, it just nails them. And you know, there's not much you could have done to position yourself for this. I mean, some people got lucky. Like in our business, we were paying down debt as fast as we could. That's why we were able to get out in good shape when we did. So if businesses had their debt down real low, any of you ever shop at Steinmart? Anybody ever shop at Steinmart? My wife loves Steinmart. Well, it's going out of business in Wichita. It's going bankrupt. Not just bankrupt reorganization, but they're going bankrupt. They're liquidating the whole thing. They've already got the signs on the store in East and Northeast Wichita. And I looked at that company on Wikipedia. I did a little research, and they were very levered up. They had really leveraged their company, and they were a great organization. If you shop there, I mean, they just did a wonderful job. Good organization, but they just got caught in the wrong position at the wrong time. And had you given them another 5 years, they might have been paying down debt, and they might have been in a much better position. But anytime you lever up, whether it's individually and borrow money individually as a business, whatever the case is, you're kind of getting out on that limb and you're susceptible to some of those risks. So think about success and failure in a little different light, because I think just having it kind of in this black and white framework that we've always thought about, I think it's more like 1,000 shades of gray. There's a lot of things that can happen. There's a lot of things that can nail you. And so, and part of the reason I say that too is there's a lot of people struggling individually and as businesses right now. And it's tough on their psyche. It's tough on their mentality. And, you know, I just don't want anybody getting in trouble and getting themselves in trouble mentally to where you start thinking about options and things that you shouldn't be or normally wouldn't think of. So life is a life, and my research that I'm going to share with you, that Angie will share with you this week yet or over the weekend, this research is about how to sustain and maintain and manage your lives in more convulsive environments. Because folks, that's what we've got right now. That's what we've really had if you look at the last 10, 20 years, and I don't see it getting any better. I think it's gonna continue to be some pretty big ups and downs, and I think those cycles are gonna compress a little bit. And so we're all gonna have to seatbelt in. It could be a bumpy ride at times, but we can get through it. But you got to be able to kind of keep your perspective and understand there's a difference between your business and you. And that's one of the reasons I taught my whole life, is I made sure that I didn't have all of my self-worth. I made sure that I didn't have my whole impression of myself based solely on my business. I always had other sides to me that I felt like were just as worthy and that were just as worth developing. And so I think that helped me in some of our toughest and darkest times as we went through all of that. That was a long answer to a short question, wasn't it?
I was going to say, little does Larry know, he just gave us some ammo about he's the survivor. So we'll see how this plays out on the School of Business. Whatever happens in the Zoom session doesn't stay in this Zoom session, right? We are recording, which I remembered 10 minutes into it, but I finally remembered. So I'll get it. I'll get it at some point. Larry, could you talk to maybe what you think might be instrumental for these students? Some of them are just starting out the MBA. Some of them are 4 or 5 classes in. What can they do to make sure that they are successful within the program itself?
Yeah, I'm really glad to talk about that. Just to give you a little more background on me, I did most of my higher education non-traditionally. I had about 54, 55 hours that I had to finish up with my bachelor's degree when I was working full time and I was already married. Then I did a master's in science and communication at Fort Hays State University while I was married. And then we had a child at that point. I did my MBA from Friends University while I was married and had 2 children. And then I did my Harvard thing, and I did that Harvard thing when I was about in my late 40s and early 50s. And then I did my doctorate when I was about 50. I think I graduated with that when I was 55. So first of all, learning is a lifetime experience. And so don't feel like you got to be a certain age. And actually, in a way, when you're learning, especially in your mid and even later years, I look at going through a process like this, everybody's brain as you age, crusts over a little bit. It gets a little bit hard. I mean, I can almost hear it in my head sometimes. And so, and that happens. Your brain starts just crusting over a little bit. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I mean, ideas would just be flying all over the place. When I was in my 40s and 50s, not so much, right? And so when you're doing education, it's like taking a jackhammer to your brain and it knocks that crust off and it keeps you young. I call it intellectual accountability. And I really think it's a great process. It's a healthy process. I mean, you can get it in your work, you can get it other places as well, but the intensity of this education really makes a difference. So I salute you for taking on that task at whatever stage of your careers you might be. The other thing I would say about this is sometimes people have this tendency to almost like try to shield their family from it, and shield them from their reality. You know, I got to work hard and I got to do this and I got to do that. So I'm going to try not to act like anything's going on, and I'm going to try to shield my kids and my family from it. Don't do that. Do your homework upstairs and with your kids as much as you can, right? Make sure your kids and your husband, everybody knows that you're going through this process. It's a really great model to set for your kids. You're showing them that education's important. You're showing them that it's worthwhile. You're showing them that it's a lifelong experience. What better can you do? And then someday, and I really, really want to stress this, someday when you graduate, right? You get that MBA and you graduate, go through the ceremony. And remember this, that ceremony, as much as it might seem like it's about you, it's not. That ceremony is a celebration of everything your family, everything your friends, everything everybody around you brought to the table to help you through that experience. Yeah, your name's on the degree. Yeah, you're the one who technically the parties are for and things like that, but really make it about them. And again, my kids watched every graduation I went through, including my Harvard one in Boston. We flew them all down there, and my doctorate. They went through every one of my graduations with me, and it's just a really great role model and a really great experience to share with your family. But don't just shield them from it. Make them a part of it every step of the way. You'll cuss and you'll cry and you'll have good days and you'll have bad days. That's okay. That's part of the experience. And so just make sure that you use your resources, fall back on your family, let them help you as much as possible. But you know, when you graduate and when you get that degree and you're successful at the end of it, understand that your name may be on that degree, but there's a lot of other names that belong on it right next to you, right? Okay. answer that question?
You did. And I have to say that I did tell my boss, Jill, that, I just recently graduated with my MBA, and all of my graduation ceremonies, there's been some looming catastrophe that happened around them. Undergrad, my grandmother's on her deathbed. I take my last final, jump on a plane, fly to Phoenix. She passes away, missed my graduation ceremony. 2 years later, I'm getting my master's directly afterwards. Same thing, repeat situation with my grandfather. Got to go through my hooding ceremony, did not get to go to graduation. Fast forward 20 some years, I decided to get my MBA, and we have a global pandemic, and I'm not able to actually go through my graduation ceremony. So I think it's all my fault, and I apologize for that. I'm really sorry. But my coworkers were very, very nice to me, and actually had a mock hooding ceremony for me the other day, which I appreciate. But Larry is truthful in what he says. This degree meant more to me, I think, than the other 2 degrees that I've already obtained, because my family got to witness me going through them. My kids saw that this was a priority for me, that even at mid-age, I guess I'll call myself mid-age, that I can still do this, right? And I actually rock this degree a lot more than I rocked my first one, because I took it seriously, and I had the maturity level, and I had the commitment to apply everything that I've learned in the degree directly into my daily life. So I do encourage all of you to do that. If you're currently working right now, find every opportunity that you can, whatever you're learning and whatever class you're taking, try to apply it directly into your work experience. It's going to make things click for you. It's going to make things matter. It's going to help your organization as well. And especially if your organization is helping pay for your degree, you're automatically bringing, a little bit to the table for them. What I want to do at this point is just kind of open it up to anybody that has any questions for Larry. Larry will be teaching your capstone class. He'll teach a lot of you second 8 weeks. If you're set to take organizational behavior, he'll teach you in that as well. But he's going to be teaching your capstone strategic management class. So we're the beginning right here, and he's going to wrap it all up in a nice, pretty bow for you at the end. No pressure, Larry. I'm sure Larry can come through with that. But really, any questions that you have for him, he has a wealth of experience just in industry and with teaching, and he's a very approachable person. So part of this is just allowing you guys to get to know him and be able to ask him any questions. So I'm going to, of course, I talk too much, turn off my mic, and we're going to let anybody ask Larry any questions. We're going to put him in the hot seat.
Did I do that good of a job?
And we have silence, crickets. I'm sure we can come up with a question for Larry.
I think I know, but can you go into what Straub International was and what they sold and dealt with?
Sure. Yeah, we were in the agricultural equipment business, and so it was all really big dollar stuff. Like, we would sell from the biggest tractors and combines in the ag sector to all the way down to the smallest tractors. We also sold in 3 of our stores, we sold Polaris, which was really a fun business to be involved with. And but yeah, we sold everything from $15,000 pieces of equipment all the way up to the tractors and combines that we would do could be $500,000 a piece. And so and everything we did was just dealt with a lot of debt and leverage, and that's why it was always a little perilous in that industry. And so, and we were for a one generation, so everything we had we'd kind of built up in one generation, and that turned out to be kind of our little bit of our downfall. The ones that seem to be surviving this right now are the ones that had a generation or 2 on us. They're grandfathers and great grandfathers started their businesses. And so they had a chance to get a lot more net worth and a lot better balance sheet in place than we were able to do. Part of the reason we struggled with getting our balance sheet in as good a shape is because of the tax laws, which ironically they have changed since then. But anytime we made over $100,000, more or less roughly, the government took half of it. So it was really tough to build capital. It was really tough to build net worth. And so it just made it tougher for us to build that strength. Now today, with the tax laws and everything, they got love them or hate them, it's about half that. So you can build that capital. Had that happened, frankly, 5 or 10, even 5 years earlier, but for sure 10 years earlier, I think we'd have had a much different outcome and been in a little better shape. But so yeah, it was a great industry. You felt good being in it. You kind of helped feeding the world type thing and all that. But it was pretty stressful. Even on its good days, it could be very stressful. And so part of me misses it. Part of me sleeps a lot better at night. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we did, Keith. And we kind of dabbled in some other things. Like I say, the sports utility stuff with the terraces. We had some industrial lines of equipment that we did too, but primarily probably about 80+% of our business was in the ag sector. And we had 7 stores at our peak. Towards the end, we got that back down to 5 as we kind of consolidated some markets. But we had about a third of the state of Kansas that we were the case IH dealer for. So had a pretty big footprint.
I tried to talk Jill into cashing in our retirements and getting a couple dozers and some wash plants and going to Alaska to go and look for gold. But
I see her head shaking no, Keith. Sorry about that.
She told me no.
Well, I invested years ago when they first came out in a Polaris. We have the Razor, just the 2-seater, right? And it's probably 15 years old, but that sucker still kicks on when you turn, the ignition. We go and ride around the neighborhood with it. It's a wonderful product. Yeah. But my husband bleeds green, so we own a John Deere tractor. But he also collects tractors, so he's very big in Case IH and Farmalls and all different kinds of tractors, which is wonderful.
As long as your husband buys me a drink every once in a while, let's forget.
Exactly. Well, he's always up for that. Right. What kind of advice would you give them as far as positioning themselves coming out of the MBA to find their jobs, especially in the environment? Some of these people on the call might graduate in May, and we're probably still going to be under, some repercussions of the coronavirus, and not really graduating in an environment where you feel very good about your prospects of getting a job. So what kind of, not to put you on the spot, but what kind of advice would you give the students that are graduating in this kind of environment? How can they position themselves to take advantage of the situation?
Yeah, one thing I would say is it's never too early to start positioning yourself. Again, that's where I would really emphasize the LinkedIn page. And one of the things I would really advise you to do is start building networks. One of the things I showed Angie that I think a lot of people don't realize, I kind of stumbled on it myself. But if you go, like for instance, me, if I want a job in higher education, I can go on LinkedIn and I can go on their search and I can search Friends University. And it'll show me they've got 65 people that are on LinkedIn. And I can click on that and it'll show me everybody at Friends University who has a LinkedIn page. And so I can start sending out invitations. And I can even put a personal message on that invitation if I want, right? And I could do the same thing for Wichita State. I could do the same thing for Baker University, any of those types of things. So depending on what industry or what you think you might want to do, what I would suggest, and my son, he graduated from KU with a finance and an economics degree. He was almost a 4.0 student, but he fell into that, didn't have 1 to 2 years experience trap. So he worked with a company called Aston Carter out of Kansas City, and my brother-in-law, who's a CPA and was director of taxation up for Sprint up in Kansas City was the one who finally grabbed me by the ears and said, listen to me. And so we got him with Ashton Carter. They're a job placement firm. So they got him interviews and things like that. But what they ended up doing for him was getting him a temporary job, which was a 1.5-year job with Underwriters Laboratory. Is technically an accounting position, but so this it's going to end October 31st, which still isn't great times to come in the job market, but he's going to have that 1.5 years of experience, and he checks the accounting box now. So he's got some experience on that end of it. So I'd really just say build your networks, and be thinking about the types of things you want to do. And then when you think about what you might want to do, then start building your networks in those arenas with those type of companies. I would encourage anybody to take a look at these job placement firms. You know, the Arnold Group, that Ashton Carter. You know, they might not be a bad thing, or maybe there's headhunters out there, depending on what your experience was before you started your MBA. But use your resources and really look at all angles. It doesn't cost anything to look at these things. It doesn't cost anything to talk to all these folks. You may not think you want to use them, but it doesn't really cost to just see what they have to offer, see what they bring to the table. The other thing I would just say about it too is just you know, again, try not to be too tough on yourself. Have a little patience. Just understand that just because you got an MBA, and I don't care if it's who it's from, doesn't necessarily mean that the skids are going to be completely greased for you. You know, they'll be greased, they'll be better, and you're going to have some experiences, and you're going to have this degree that you bring to the table, but you still have to go out and sell yourself. And one of the things I would really learn how to do, and I can help you do it if you need it, but learn how to sell your degree. Learn how to sell what you've done. I'll tell you what, one of the things, there's some pluses and minuses to being an adult learner, a mid-career learner, but I'll tell you what, here's the way I sell doing this stuff when you've got a career. Any of you had kids that played with Legos, or did you play with Legos when you were younger? Well, you remember those Lego tables, right? Those Lego tables that you could get, and they had the little net in them, and you could build on them and all that fun stuff. Well, picture this. Picture building a Lego castle, you know, about that tall, maybe a couple feet tall, building this Lego castle on a coffee table, just a smooth coffee table. And somebody comes up and bumps that really hard. What's going to happen to your Lego castle? There's a chance it's going on the floor, or it's going to get damaged, or it's going to be unstable, or something like that. When you build that same Lego castle on one of those Lego tables, what's the difference? They have Lego blocks underneath that those blocks hook into, right? You build that Lego castle on that, somebody comes by and bumps it, you can almost tip the thing and it ain't going nowhere. Well, that's the difference when you get this mid-career level education. Everything you learn, you're applying almost the next day. If you're in a situation where you're mid-career, you're working somewhere, you're taking that and you're applying it. Somebody goes to a big-time business school, especially if they get into it right out of their undergrad, and they're 25 to 28 years old or something like that, they don't have that experience. They don't bring that stuff to the table, and it's hard to anchor in that knowledge. And that's the biggest thing I would sell with this thing, is you've got that anchor and your knowledge is anchored. The first strategic plan I ever did for my company was when I was doing strategic planning and my MBA at Friends University. And I talked to the instructor. I said, you know, we've never really done a formal strategic plan anymore. This capstone strategic management class, would you mind, instead of doing this big case study and stuff, could I do this on my company? He said, by all means. Well, guess what? I could do homework on company time, and we ended up with a great strategic plan. And so if there's any ways, especially if your company is helping pay for this thing, if there's any way you can tie your education in and do a project or something like that that might actually help your company, that's a great way to look at it too. Now, some of you may be in a good place. You may be working for an organization that you want to be with and things like that. Again, this is where that LinkedIn comes in. And look at Angie's LinkedIn. She did what I suggested to her. And look at my LinkedIn. If you look at Newman University, you're going to see every class I've taught so far, the graduate and the undergraduate broken out. You're also going to see the committees that I worked with. And you're going to, and my job as a CEO, you're going to see detail on what that entailed and the type of things I did as a CEO of my company. And that's what you want to do with that LinkedIn page. My daughter she's a chemist. She got her master's degree from Duke University, or undergrad from KU. She's in Durham, North Carolina now. She had a tough time. It took her actually a little over a year to finally get a job. And once again, she was straight A's at KU, and she was, about the equivalent of that at Duke University, but it took her, she had a tough time getting a job. Well, finally, what got her a job was she hadn't even talked to this company. They found her through LinkedIn because she had, it's called NMR, and it's something with chemistry, and she tells me repeatedly what it means, and I still don't understand. But it's a specific skill set in chemistry that's not widely, a lot of people don't have it, and this company found her, and she's been there a year and a half now, and she's doing phenomenal with them. So be sure and detail the types of things you've done, and just look at all of the different types of things. The other thing that I would just say, don't forget this. I know you're grad students and stuff like that, but don't ever forget the quality of Newman itself. And it's a faith-based institution. It's just it's a good place to be. And don't hesitate to reach out and use us professors. Hi, Therese. Don't hesitate to reach out and use us professors for advice, and reach out, and I'm a phone call away or an email away at any time. So just use all your resources. What I've figured out in life, it's not about home runs. It is just, as much as we'd like to think it is, it's not about home runs. It's about getting on base. It's about somehow getting on first base, and you got to get on first before you can score, And so try to figure out those base hits. Try to find those little wins that you can use, and just keep plugging. It may be a little tougher out there, but there's still going to be opportunities. Always keep in mind, even if you have 10% unemployment, which is a pretty high unemployment, it means 90% of the people have jobs, folks. And with an MBA and the track you've taken, you're positioned well.
I'm glad Teresa decided to join us, even though she's just muted her picture. Teresa probably just got done having dinner and is now having her after dinner drink. Larry, you mentioned something that you were talking about. Larry also, I just wanted to let you guys know, he teaches business ethics to our undergrads as well. And that's something that we've been dealing with in our coursework this week, Larry, was ethics, and how it's kind of a slippery slope of how people can become unethical. So if you guys ever have a situation where you need to bounce some ideas off of, Larry's the perfect person to be able to do this. He does teach business ethics at the undergrad level. So are there any other questions for Larry at this point?
Angie, can I put in?
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, and I'll send Angie this as well. I will send her my mission statement, my personal mission statement. I really advise that people think about that and think about doing a personal mission statement. And a mission statement's kind of like a will. You don't want to do it while you're under duress. You want to do it while the deck's somewhat stable for you, as close as you can get to stable. But having a mission statement, when we get under pressure, it's really, and believe me, my last 3 to 5 years of my business, I really fell back on this, but it's really important when you get under duress and you get under pressure and things like that, that you've got that document that kind of says, here's what I'm willing to do and here's what I'm not willing to do to achieve my goals in business. And it was really important to do that. And so, think about a mission statement. And so anyway, I'll share that with Angie. I think that might be something that we might get to eventually, who knows, but I'll just kind of share that so you can take a look at that.
Hey, Larry, that was a perfect segue, because they also this week had to go discover Newman's mission statement. Or no, that's next week. Sorry, Jill's been working ahead. Next week, all of you will go discover Newman's mission statement and what it means to you as a student and what it means to us as faculty. Please know that throughout all of this, our faculty is a resource for you. They are there to help you. I know with an online curriculum, it's kind of hard to make those connections, and that's kind of what we're trying to do throughout this, is for you now to realize this is what Larry looks like. He's going to be my strategic planning professor, probably my org behavior professor. He is accessible. I mean, he really truly is, and he's there to help you as the student. So it's a wonderful resource that you guys need to learn to start taking advantage of, and we as the School of Business are going to start promoting that for you guys and giving you opportunities to take advantage of this. So does anybody, before we end, we've got 10 more minutes, does anybody have any more questions for Larry? Anything that you're interested about the program itself or about business itself?
I kind of have a quick question going back to the LinkedIn thing, because we were kind of on that for a bit and I've been working on it. But I guess like my question is it like too much to like reach out to like the people on there? Because I guess you said like people reached out to your daughter, but I guess what are some steps to take besides just adding that connection button? Should we write messages, or like what would be your advice on that? Because like I work at Starbucks, and that's kind of like where I'm trying to go, is like move up in the company. I'm moving to Washington so that I can kind of get my foot in the door more. Because I want to work in that corporate, because I really like the company a lot, and kind of what they stand for is very similar to what my values are. So what would you suggest for something like that? Because I'm already with the company, but I don't know any of like the higher ups yet.
Your goal would be to kind of stay in that organization and grow with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sorry, and you're kind of a little quiet. I couldn't hear exactly.
Sorry. So you said you would like to grow with that company, correctly?
Yeah.
Here would be my advice. First, one of the things that I would be doing is kind of looking at your whole organizational landscape and then trying to connect with people, not only up above you, but even peripheral to you. Just anybody that you think might be a good contact, that might be a good connection. And another simple thing that I do is anytime that somebody connects with me, I always write a short note, just thanks for adding me to your professional network. And so I just, I always do that. And then again, especially if you're connecting with people in your own organization or something like that, just when you're reaching out to connect with them, write a short note on that connection. Say, my name's such and such, and I work for the company. I just wanted to reach out and connect with you, and just put a little note in there, some personal little note. They say that doubles the chances that somebody will go ahead and accept your connection. And so, but again, I just can't emphasize enough, and I would really emphasize this with you, where you're wanting to kind of grow with your organization, is really dig in and get to know your organization. Know your people, know who's above you, know who's peripheral to you, I mean, it sounds kind of cheeky to say this, but really get to know anybody that might be able to someday positively impact your progress in that organization, right? Now that seems a little cynical to say, but that's really what LinkedIn is all about. It's not Facebook, right? It's not this feel-good little thing. It's a professional site, and everybody who's linking with anybody on that, for the most part, is thinking someday. Now, like me, I've got, I think I've got about 1,300 connections on LinkedIn right now. And so do I know all these people? Are all those people going to be able to impact me? No, probably not. But I do a thing that I'm sure Angie or somebody will share with you. It's called my 3 Tips series. And one of them's on how to be a good adult student. And I do one a month. And so I post those on that network. And so they get noticed and people share them and they get around. And it's part of how Jill, as the dean and the university, wants me to ground and to take my mission and my academic knowledge and ground it and bring it out into the general population, the general sector, the general business community. So this is a tool that I use to do that. And so, and think about like the videos that I do. I mean, they don't set the world on fire. I don't get 1 million views or anything like that, but it's something that I put out there. And think of yourself as a brand. Okay? Think of yourself as a brand and build your brand. It's as simple as that, just like a company or just like a product. And so in your company, you want to define your brand in Starbucks, right? And you want to build your brand. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of concerted effort. And it doesn't just happen by accident, does it?
Right.
So you got to work at it. And I'm just telling you, LinkedIn is the foundation that you build all of this stuff on. It's like trying to go out and build a big mansion, but you didn't lay a concrete foundation under, or it was a wobbly foundation. Not going to stand very tall, and it's not going to stand very long, right? So that foundation under you is your network, and LinkedIn is really the platform for that. So really, really work on building that and get to know your organization. Does that help out?
Yeah, definitely. I think like right now it's a little bit tougher with not being able to have like in-person meetings, because I feel like for Starbucks, they're actually very good about developing people and like kind of getting them to where they want to be if you want to do that. But right now it's been so difficult trying to reach out to people, like how you were saying, just because like you can't really meet with anyone.
The other thing I would say is make sure that any meetings you can get right now, whether they're evaluation meetings or any meetings you can get with your bosses or anybody for that level, make sure that they know what your ambitions are and that you're very clear about where you'd like to someday go in the organization and what your ambitions and desires are and the things that you're investing in. Let me ask you this: is Starbucks paying for your degree, or are you paying for it?
I'm paying for it. They do have the option to do that, but I already have a master's, so it's only for your bachelor's degree.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But look at what you're doing. Look at what you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your career. You're investing in you, the brand, and you, the person, and that says a lot about you. So make sure you know how to tell your story, and again, make sure that you know how to sell your education. Make sure that you know how to sell the institution that granted you your degrees, which is Newman and or any other schools.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I have to work on. So I definitely want to connect with you on that eventually.
I was going to say, Miss Shayla, that's one of the hardest things I think it took me years to realize is you're in control of your own situation. And your boss, you can't leave it up to them to assume what your ambitions are. You need to communicate those to them. And it's taken me a long time to realize that, personally for myself, but, you just can't leave it up to chance. I mean, you've got to create your brand and your direction and action steps towards it. So
the other thing I'd say is look for mentors. Look for mentors. And those aren't always your bosses. I'll guarantee you, I'm a mentor to Angie. I'm kind of a mentor to Teresa at times. And sometimes I try to be even a little bit of a mentor to even Jill. I mean, because, I've got a lot of experience. I've got a lot of executive experience. And, sometimes it may be somebody that's not your boss. It may be somebody that's just peripheral to you. That's the same on the organizational chart, but they bring experiences and they bring things to the table that can help you. And so look for mentors. And it could be inside and outside the company. Okay?
Yes.
And the good thing is, I will say this, I will tell you this, and I won't bat an eye when I say it. And this should help you sell your degree. I've worked with a lot of universities in my time. I've never worked with as quality of a faculty and administration as I've seen in this business school, hands down. I mean, and I will not back up from anybody with that. They built a really great team. And Jill is going to do a great job. She's learning. She's kind of figuring out. That's why she's in this MBA program. She's backing up. She's backfilling her skills right now, to learn more about business and everything. But this is just a phenomenal business school, and it's just a great place to be. I'm proud to be a part of it. But this is a top-notch crew, and we can be part of your team of mentors, right?
Yeah.
But be sure and look for others as well.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And sometimes your mentors actually come wearing PJs. Just saying.
That's totally fine.
Teresa's one of my biggest mentors from joining the School of Business, and she's in her PJs. So I appreciate the fact that she's here in her PJs. So that's good. Well, we are right at 7:59. Does anybody have any final question for Dr. Straub? If not, we'll probably conclude tonight's Zoom session. Next week, we will be meeting with Patrick Nance, who is our accounting professor. And he actually asked for 2 meetings with you to calm your nerves about going through accounting. So bring questions. Patrick is a wonderful resource. He is always there to help the students go through. Patrick is one of those individuals, just like Larry is, who lives to teach. Like this is his mission in life, is truly to make sure that his students understand. So please know that when you're going through accounting, he's going to be there for you every step of the way. Lunch hours in his office, but I know that several students spent many hours with him over Zoom going over problems. He's there for you. So any reservations, any apprehensions you have about accounting, let's just talk about them next week. Let him know what you're afraid of, what he needs to prepare you for. He's there to teach you, and that's what he's wanting to do. So that's what we're going to use next week to kind of dip our toes into accounting. I have no accounting background, and it was probably one of my favorite classes throughout the entire program. Like, I loved it. I rocked it. I was a lot like Jill, and I worked 3 weeks ahead because I could not, I think I missed my calling in life. But Patrick is a wonderful professor, and he is there to help you. So please think about some accounting questions or anything that you're just afraid of that you want to talk about. He realizes it's a topic that's not common knowledge to the majority of the American population. And he's there to kind of quell your fears a little bit. But thank you for joining us tonight. Look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have any questions or any concerns, feel free to email me. Now Cameron shows back up.
I think he's in his PJs too.
No, I'm not my PJs.
He was probably conducting flights.
I was busy, making sure everybody landed safely.
That's always good. That's always good when you have your part-time job at the control tower.
That's right. That's exactly right.
All right.
I'm right next to the campfire right now.
There you go. All right. Does anybody have any other questions before we break? Are we good for tonight? Everybody understands what's going on this week with ethics
I do have
and social responsibility?
I've got a real quick question for you. So, okay, so discussion board, they're supposed to be due on, the post is due on what date or what date? Can you explain that real quick?
I would like for you to have your initial post done by Thursday to allow time for people to actually reply to you. So if you can have that initial post done Thursday and then your 2 replies done by Sunday, that would be great. I know the due date, you can't set 2 separate due dates in an assignment in Canvas. So the due date is Sunday. But in order to have people to have that flow of conversation, if you give them a few days to respond, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? No? Well, thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing all your faces next week. And Michelle, you're moving next Saturday, not this Saturday, right?
Yeah, so the weekend after Labor Day, so next Saturday. So that'll be going into the 4th week, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully we see you next week, but we understand if you're too busy packing boxes. We get it.
Oh,
I'll remember to record at the beginning next week. I'm not very good at this, but we'll see.
Well,
So.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Well, everybody have a wonderful evening. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.